Hi, this is Alex Gonzalez from In Your Phase. This is a 40K based episode, and we're going to be reviewing the big FAQ that happened this past week. John won't be with us, but we will go over some of the rules and some of the new FAQ changes and points costs for some of the units within 40K. Malekith campaign sucks because, or doesn't suck, but it's the first time the Chaos Invasion happened, I was already prepared for it because I played the game enough to know like when the initial one comes, and I was totally prepared for it the first time. I was still prepared for it the second time, but like I knew that they were just going to go crazy on me, especially on Legendary, and like I had to repel them on my end. And by the time I was done repelling the Chaos forces in the Nagaroth area, like Alarielle already, Avalon or whatever, already confederated with the Tene or whatever, however you pronounce Tyrion's faction, and they just started like going balls into my shit. And I had Exiles of Nehek as like a buffer, and like of course like a random small high, and they were like totally cool with the other, like with all the high elven factions. So I knew that they were like a bit of a buffer for me just to see them coming. But all it had to take was me seeing if they wanted to join a war with one of the, with like Caldor, and then all of a sudden, like 3 turns later, they're gone. And so I was like, oh, great. Now I have to deal with all of this. It's not fun. Feels bad.
Yeah, I haven't played beyond normal difficulty on Total War Warhammer yet. I don't play it that much anymore.
Get on our level.
So I don't like playing the battle mode on difficulty, because the battle mode on difficulty, already knowing that the AI cheats in campaign no matter the difficulty, I wanted to be an even match in terms of the actual battle. But then in the campaign I have it on very hard, and then I have the Chaos Invasion right now on Legendary, because you can either turn it off now, and this is like a update I guess from last month. You can either turn it off, turn it on, and then when you turn it on, you can choose like easy, medium, hard, very hard, Legendary. Normally in my normal campaigns, even on like hard, by the time Archaon shows up, he like gets beaten like 10 turns. But this time, like I was able to get the chaos done on my side because I was preparing for it anyways. I was able to get that shit taken care of within a few turns. But like Warriors of Chaos was a faction that existed for like 25, 30 extra turns for me. So I was like, oh wow, like they really like stick around. I even had like a secondary character show up to see what's going on over in the old world, and of course there was nothing but like wreckage. So I was like, oh shit, this is fun. Like you actually see the damage they're causing. But yeah, definitely check it out then, just because of the fact that they did update that. And also the Twilight Sisters are annoying as fuck.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever played High Elf once, but we gotta restart our High Elf campaign. Jeremy and I do, just because like the High Elf rework not High Elf, Wood Elf rework made them okay. Or at least
heard there was issues with their like reward system, that like it was just awful. Like it was like,
yeah,
cool.
It's better now. It's better. I mean, like I don't really play them, so but I know that it's better. Yeah. That's it though. This is, of course, everyone, another episode of In Your Phase. These two look very enthusiastic to be with us tonight. So this is, of course, Jeremy and Garrett. It's pretty rainy in Portland, so we're enjoying the shitty weather, and at least Jeremy and I are. How's the weather over with you, Garrett?
Cold. I mean, it's not that cold. It's like, I mean, I don't know what it is right now, but like during the day, it was actually kind of warm today. It was like 48 today or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't that bad.
Okay, cool. I'm glad it's not super ridiculous, right? On our side, it's just wet. It's not too cold. We can at least live with that. This is a place that's habitable for human beings, unlike the DC area. So, that's just my 2 cents. Take it or leave it. But In my phase, I do not have a lot. Clearly from the intro here, just playing a lot of Mortal Empires, just getting my butt kicked as Malekith, as the American version of the Warhammer world, or America as seen through the eyes of Games Workshop old school. And I am kind of getting my butt kicked, but I also choose to be playing on very hard, so I kind of deserve it. No hobby work whatsoever. I built, officially it is done except for the Olympic style weights. I got my squat rack, I got everything there. Did a little workout before the start of this episode, so taking control, ready to level up. We're having a good time with that. Got serotonin flowing right now, having a real fun time. We also played a game, Jeremy and I. We played on the live stream. It was the Custodes versus Necrons. I made a few bad moves with my pregame move. I think I will try the list out a little bit more. It was a double Scorpec list with double Chronomancers. I will test it out a few more times, but I think I can do better with a different list. And I think I want to try the Hexmark again, or also completely different list, scrap all of that and do fucking Silent King and 30 goddamn death marks, because the all failed reroll, all rerolling hits, all rerolling wounds with death marks sounds really fucking fun, especially with their 6s causing mortal wounds in addition to normal damage, which is their strength 5 AP1 or strength 5 AP2 1 damage weapons anyways. So I feel like there's some utility and some fun that you can have there. Besides that, yeah, Aquilon Terminators are no bullshit. Not having fun with that. All I have in terms of drink, because I realize I haven't talked about that the last few episodes, even when I've made cocktails, just like a protein shake and an iced coffee, just because I'm not going to be drinking tonight or this week. So that's all that's in my phase. Jeremy, what about you? What's in your phase?
Let's see. Well, I got this really nice Harlequin T-shirt from my buddy Ben over the weekend for Christmas. I'm really rocking it out today in honor of him. And I got my Sister Repentia over the weekend that I need to assemble to get back to a legal Sisters of Battle list, as we've discussed in the previous episodes. And then, yeah, I got my one game against Alex this weekend on Sunday. You should watch it. So if you want to pick up a thing or two about playing Custodes, you know, from a master, non-master Custodes.
Seriously.
Glad to see the gimmick I tried to build for Schmoller, or Ben Schmoller, for his Custodes. It was my first time trying it out. It was pretty good. I don't think it was great, but it was pretty good. Quillen Terminators can really pack a punch with some of those stratagem combinations in both shooting and Dreadhost teleportation, charge, 3d6, all that jazz.
That they can.
And then, you know, Satan has a hard time killing things with cannot be wounded better than a 4-up. Sad Satan. sad Satan. But other than that, like the game, honestly, I was a little afraid because when Alex showed up with the Satan and the 6 Scorpeks, I was like, I don't think this is gonna go well for me. But then
and
Alex, and the Scorpek, that's what I said, yeah, and the Scorpek. And Alex should decided to do a maneuver that I was very surprised by, but then I guess in his head he's like, Custodes, bad for Scorpek. And I was like, in my head, I was like, Scorpek, bad for Custodes. And then somebody flinched first.
I flinched first.
But the Satan, like, keeps proving, like, I don't understand, like, why, like, there's never any argument to never take a Satan and a Necron list. The thing did, like, 20 mortal wounds to me, I think, in two maybe 3 turns. It was definitely, like, it was really, I don't think the 3rd turn mattered. Actually, no, I think he died on the 3rd turn, so no. I think it was just, he did like 20 mortal wounds over 2 turns. He did most of the damage in the entire Necron army just in the first
two
turns. Sometimes I'm thinking like maybe you don't even engage him, just have him just do his powers the entire game. Just be super obnoxious. But anyway, that was my weekend. How about you, Garrett? What was on your weekend?
Not a super exciting weekend. Just some home projects, cleaning up the house a bit. So we're starting to get some like smart home things in our house. After this Christmas, we got ourselves a HomePod Mini. which I didn't realize just came out in like November. So it's one of the new. It's a newer model. And I have entered the. I just recently today, right before recording, I have found the API library for my smart oven. So I'm sure that's going to go over well. Finding it, just still got to figure out how to actually connect to my oven. But we'll see, because apparently there's not a lot of integration with other home devices for GE ovens. So, but they have an API library. So I don't know. Maybe I can wrangle something up. Sounds like a fun project to start actually delving into the IoT world.
Give it the old college try.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The old college try with my gas oven. That sounds like a great idea.
Love it.
We already talked about this, dude. It's gonna gain sentience. It's gonna realize you're unnecessary, and then it could take your job and pretend it's you, and then it's going to try to get rid of you.
I think he's okay with that. So be it.
He's not gonna ask me to go on a vacation, man.
So be it.
But yeah, not a really exciting week for me. Haven't really done much hobby stuff. I mean, as we'll talk about later, most of the stuff I did was delving into the new FAQs and figuring out how the game has changed. So that was basically the summary of my hobby week, is just looking at all the new rules and being excited about the future. I like the changes that they made, and so I'm just excited for the future of Warhammer 40K. So that's it.
I'm excited too, man. Now here's the thing. I know quite a few people who are like, okay, well, where's the I want to say General's Handbook. They were like, where's the chapter approved? And they have not made an official announcement about like putting them all in the same time, putting both the General's Handbook and the chapter approved out at the exact same time in the middle of the summer. But from what Jeremy has told me before, a little earlier in the year, is that that was kind of the intention. Or he told me kind of like in the middle of 2020. You know, I wouldn't anticipate getting another chapter approved in the fall. Do we have any more solid information on that, or is that kind of a thing that we feel might be correct?
I understand why they did the chapter approved this time around in the summer. They always do new edition releases in the summer, and having a chapter approved come out with an edition is a great way to update things with an edition rather than in previous, like going from 6th to 7th. You had this issue where there were 6th edition books that had all their point totals and everything, and all the 7th edition books started coming out, and you're like, that sucks. And for example, when 2nd edition Age of Sigmar came out, they had the GHB come out with it to make sure that all the older books were kind of brought in line with what 2nd edition at the time was expected to be. So it made sense that the chapter approved was then. I think in the effort of not wanting Age of Sigmar and 40K to kind of clash with each other, I would imagine they would move the chapter approved back to a fall to winter release after this year. I would think so personally, but
I mean,
Okay.
there also could be no chapter approved anymore.
that would be wonderful, actually.
'Cause,
They still need the new GT books, which I guess
Right.
the GT book over the summer would be
Yeah, it would be the
Nice.
chapter approved equivalent,
Yeah.
basically, and then just keep doing this fact setting during the winter time.
I like that actually a lot better, because I mean, I've expressed this in the past that one of the issues that happens with these physical books for points is that the time it takes to produce these books is too long, and you can't pivot as quickly on point changes. Like, new books will come out, people will play those books for 3 months, and then the new chapter approved or General's Handbook will come out, and those books aren't updated in that because they were not, they didn't get playtesting or enough evidence that what an FAQ could have changed. So if they move point changes to a fully digital format and just use the General's Handbook and chapters approved, in particular the GT book, as a way to release new missions, release new formats, talk about how to change match play and focus on the rules, and just leave these point changes to, I would even do them every 6 months and just have point changes every big FAQ as digital only FAQs. I think that would be a wonderful thing, personally.
Yeah. I mean, like, I get that, and that gives them time to prepare to actually like have a proper release cycle that, it's like, okay, cool. Well, we know that the big update for both, the main for Age of Sigmar for 40K are just around the corner. We're not going to, we might have a campaign book a month before then, but we're not going to have like, a battle tome that's going to be like invalidated or something,
Right.
Yeah, it gives them some wiggle room there. This would normally be the time where John would engage, and for the next 25 to 35 minutes, we would hear a story. We don't have story time with John today. He is not with us. He will, of course, be with us next week. We love him, we miss him, and we are.
He's with us in spirit.
He's with us in spirit. We're going to try our best to each one of us have a 90-minute story. I joke.
Nope.
This is a written essay, Jeremy. Were you prepared for that? Did you?
No.
I just don't want presentation.
Is it an open book?
I'll show you some oral. Secondly, let's not take John's one contribution to the show. I hope you're hearing that, John. Yeah.
Fucked up. I wasn't gonna do that. That's mean. Okay.
Whatever.
Well, of course, we did have this FAQ, and I really love the FAQ page, and unfortunately, we have some friends. It is hard to sometimes find some of the updates. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna completely take that back. It is not hard to find the updates. The updates are incredibly easy to find. Not only is there going to be an article on the FAQ about the FAQ on the Warhammer community page, but there's also the FAQ page itself. All you have to do is hear word of mouth. Oh, hey, there's a new FAQ, and you just gotta go. Our good friend Ben V. I said, oh man, there's a new FAQ. He's like, where do I find it?
Where they've been for the last 3 years.
Exactly. And he was like, they're not always there. And I'm like, okay. Okay. You win.
Yeah, just like Taldar was never a real thing.
Oh, yes, but that's it.
That's a Paul narrative, not a Ben.
That is a Paul narrative. He was Paul forging his own narrative. This is when Casey sends the screenshot that he's had for like 6 or 7 years of I'm forging my own narrative from Paul. Anyways, the FAQ came out. It didn't address, it addressed quite a bit. Of course, this is just an FAQ for 40K. They referenced that there was going to be an FAQ for Age of Sigmar. And since we're all Age of Sigmar players, we have been desperately and most impatiently wanting that big FAQ, even though signs point to it not being that much of a big FAQ anyways, even though there are very clearly things that need to be addressed. But when it comes to the FAQs here, in terms of an overall consensus for myself, I have to say, I'm glad that this FAQ exists. I'm glad that there were changes to things like points and to certain rules, not all rules. There were certain rules I feel like weren't addressed that may want to be looked at for, say, the chapter approved. I keep on wanting to call it General's Handbook, but the points changed, the power level changed. I think those are really helpful. I guess my biggest criticism is not really the fact anything in the FAQ. It's literally both the points and the power in the power level section, or more explicitly the points section. They need to have the colors like maybe an asterisk or a color showing the things with this asterisk, things with this color have had a points change, but they didn't do that.
It's weird because they have always done that until now. This
with everything.
Like General's Handbooks do the asterisk system in previous FAQs. They've color coded it. Like they've done a really good job of making sure they notify you which things changed. And this one, they're like, nah.
Carl and IT really fucked up.
I did notice actually. Jumping into one of the big changes on points is they moved. So in the modern books, particularly Space Marines, rather than having unit points and weapon points as two separate sections, and so basically all weapons are created the same, they have it where like a tactical marine getting a melt-a-gun can cost different than a devastator getting a melt-a-gun. I know that's not a real option, but like they basically have war gear. I know as maybe in Necrons you don't notice this because everyone has their own war gear, but in things like Space Marines, which have a lot of shared war gear, they actually don't have a war gear section in points anymore. Every unit has its options listed with point options.
The Necron Codex does the same thing.
But yeah, but it's very apparent in Space Marines where it's like, oh, these weapons are different point costed per different units. They made it very apparent that it's like these units will spend different points. Like I think the Eradicators can get Multimeltas that cost different points than a Devastator getting a Multimelta because they upgrade their Melta Rifle to a Multimelta, but they don't have you pay for the Melta Rifle. It's free, that comes with the unit. So they actually did that to everybody now. Like Sisters of Battle, you don't buy Eviscerators for your Repentia. You don't have to buy what else is the Penitent Engines and Mortifers are now flat 60 points rather than being 20 points plus 15 points a Heavy Bolter plus 0 points for the Penitent Foils. They just call them 50 and 60 points respectively for Penitent Engines. They've now baked the base rule.
Danger. This game is approaching very close to AOS status. Keep going.
But I like that they did that. So they basically, I think that might be why they didn't have the asterisks next to thing, because they took all of the old books, which had a different way of displaying points, and ramped them up all. So technically, every point is different now. Yes, the effects aren't different, but everybody's point structure is different than what it used to be now.
But frankly,
so that
I
is
mean,
big change.
oh, sorry.
That's it.
It,
Go ahead.
It is a big change. You're right. I really like it. I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. I mean, I don't think it sounds like you're not disagreeing with that either.
No, not at
right?
all. I was just saying that might be why they didn't have asterisks, because in theory, everything is new. They may not be new numbers, but it's a new format. So it's a whole new way of displaying points. So it's harder to do asterisks on things.
That's
like,
fair.
how do you change the point of a Heavy Bolter when a Heavy Bolter is baked into unit cost now, not a weapon cost? Like, so I guess I would see that as a justification for not having the differences, because it'd be very
That's
hard.
Fair. And I get that. And I really, 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 really like this one. And this actually would make things for people with more complicated war gear options like Space Marines, or I'm looking at Tau. Like that's the first thing I would really look at. A lot less complicated, because like, for me, you are right. Necrons don't have a lot of war gear options, but like, you'd see Lich Guardian be at a certain number of points. Then with shields, okay, add, +5, and you're like, okay, well, that means that the Scythe ones there's no, and of course you're always going to have that person that needs to be fucking led to water, or, dragged to water rather. And they're going to be like, well, where's the Scythe points? It's fucking,
it's cost
inbuilt
0.
in there.
Okay.
Cost 0. Yeah. Fuck. Anyways, but I no longer
Tell me how you
patience.
really feel.
I just no longer have patience for that. But yeah, it's just like for individuals with that kind of intuitive, people who can read.
Well, basically, people now come with base war gear, and you upgrade them versus them coming with nothing and having to build them, which is nice.
Yeah, and having unit size is also very helpful. But hey, unlike AOS, there's not yet a unit discount. But maybe when we actually see a Horde army, we could see that. Maybe
40K doesn't need Horde discounts.
No, because then you would truly see those tables again, like a local of ours who would just like fill their deployment zone, with Orc Boys.
You already almost can do that. Like, it's already still a thing. It's not good.
Yeah,
No
I'm
Horde discounts.
sure. So with the points changes, then not everything was changed. Do you guys have any main takeaways? Any sort of primary kind of points to note? Jeremy, what about you?
For me and the fact changes, I think outside of the
points specifically.
Points changes. I mean, for me, if outside of Sisters, Harlequins went down in some weird places. Like the Void Weaver went down 10 points, I believe, which is the heavy support tank. And then the war gear option, like basically being shrunk, means that the bikes now are like kind of like more looking like, the Haywire can is only 15 points, but they baked in the points of the Shuriken in it. So it's like convenient. It's just like convenience is nice. The point changes outside of Harlequins. I mean, like for me, effectively, my list went down like 50 points because of there's some additional changes But it's like, no, I think it was like, yeah, it's either 30 points or 50 points, but it's all just Void Weavers because I actually enjoy those things. So they'll probably gonna take more. You'll probably see them a little bit more in Harlequin list because of the change to bring it down, which we'll discuss later.
Oh yeah.
But the other option, the other thing I saw that I really enjoyed in the point changes was, and I think we already went over this with the sisters, but I also saw them adjust like some of the characters a little bit. And like I don't understand like how they make like point changes to characters, but I'll give you an example. I'm going to talk about the Necron one because I think that one is like more relevant to the audience here, but also because it's funny. The Nightbringer went up 20 points. Okay. Like, but what was that tweak? Like when you think about the points, it's like, okay, 20 points is like 8%, I think, or like less than 8%. Like let's do some math. Like I'm curious, like why like these types of
Not going to
adjustments.
make any change to any decision.
No, it just means like
No,
one
yeah,
less scarab.
It's just like, yeah, it's once or a little bit more than one scarab, but like I want to know, like 20 divided by 350 is.
Well, most of my lists,
it's like a
frankly, for Necrons,
6% point change. Like, okay, like
most of my lists
but-
end up being at 1995. So you just drop a fucking scarab, and there you go.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I'm curious because like I thought they did such a good job balancing all the Satans against each other. And I was just very shocked. Like, why is that one 20 points more expensive? Like, is there some like mechanic in melee or something that makes it like that much more deadly or something? I don't know. It was just, well, yeah, but the point I'm trying to say is that like he also doesn't get the Safliel, doesn't get the free CP redeployment and so forth. So like I thought it was a good trade. I don't know why they decided like that one was 20. If I was gonna guess something, it's that with new Mortarion coming out, they're like that guy's too good at killing Mortarion. So 20 point
very
price,
good at
20 point hike. But anyway, that was the only like point changes I appreciated in that book.
I mean, for sisters, it made me. It just went to home with something I keep saying. If you spam a unit, they will just nudge it up a little bit and be like, "That sucks," and everyone's list goes up by a bunch of points. Repentia went up 1 point a model because everyone was taking 27 Repentia, from what I've heard in sister lists. And then, but the one that hurts is Retributors went up 2 points a model. So that's 30. Like I take 15 Retributors because why not? Jeremy was taking 20 Retributors because he was a cheater.
That's right.
That's 30 points added to my list. But then the funny thing for me and Jeremy is that we actually have loved Zephyrim, and they went down 2 points a model. So basically, it's like.
Yep.
Okay, that's great. I've already liked Zephyr. I like how everyone was taking Repentia and no one was taking Zephyrin because Repentia were just better in people's minds. And now it's a little like they're 18 points for a Zephyrim and 16 for a Repentia. They're almost the same point cost now, which is insane to me. But other than that, I don't think anything changed. Rhinos are now 80 instead of 78, cool, which I love because I hated having this. I was like at 1993 always, or 1998. I was always like at this weird number because I took 2 Rhinos and I was like, this sucks. I guess Repentia at 16, I'm gonna have weird numbers again, but that's all I saw. And then for Orcs, I think the custom force field went down 10 points. I think he went from 75 to 65. They initially they FAQ'd to make him cost more, and now they've made him cost less. I'd have to go through Orcs again, but I think most everything stayed the same except maybe him and Doc Jets. But I'd have to go through everything again. I think Knob Bikers may have gone up 2 points a model. So, but those are I don't know any other armies, so I didn't really look at anything else points wise.
Okay. You know, the in terms of Necrons too, we had one other one. The Reanimator went from 110 points down to 80, so a 30-point reduction is pretty stiff.
So like a 30% reduction. That's the thing that Jeremy was honing in on earlier. Which is huge. I personally think that the thing should, like, I know this is like a wishful thinking. I know that they would never do this, but I think that like if they came out with its own kit, a good way to like make more money, but also like to make it a relevant unit is to make it like Carnifexes, 80 points, no warrior options, units of 1 to 3. Once you deploy them, they count as their own units.
I think that that would have been helpful, and I would honestly would have done it because for me, it's less of point cost and more of the elite slot is in a very busy slot for Necrons. You know, that and fast
Do you
attack.
actually take? Oh, it's fast. Wait, do you take all 6 elites? Or are they fast attack?
No, but I do patrols, so
Oh, okay.
I don't have a lot of room for stuff. But that being said, I mean, I will test it. I'll test it at 80 points. I won't be very excited to test it, but I'll fucking do it. I know Jeremy swears by it, but I'm not super stoked.
I hated facing against it. I'll tell you that.
I'm sure you did. Yeah. I mean, hey, then you can actually bring 2. Actually, that's a really good point. 2 for 160 instead of 300 or 220. Yeah, not bad. That's a pretty steep reduction. I don't know of any other significant point decreases or increases. I wasn't able to check all of Space Marines just because of how big the Space Marine
I heard
collection is.
Eradicators went up. And
Eradicators did go up.
yeah, I heard Eradicators went up, and I think Outriders went up. I know 2 of the newer stuff went up. I forget. I think Eradicators did.
Well, they're the first things in the list. I just, since they don't have a fucking asterisk towards the things that, from a 9th ed book, it makes things a little harder for me. I mean, I see that, I know nothing about whether or not the characters got changes in points, but I mean, God, there's so many things in this fucking list. I mean, like, were Blade Guard Ancients always 85 points? Were Blade Guard Veterans always 35 points a model?
I have the old Battlescribe data. I haven't updated yet, so I could probably check.
Okay. I mean, like, I'd be surprised if Battlescribe already uploaded everything anyways, because they'd have to go through this whole fucking document by hand and read through it, I'd be curious to see some of the significant changes of Space Marines outside of the rules, which there certainly were. It's too soon to tell. I really hope just, armies got some love. That's really the only thing that I truly hope for. But of course, we had some big FAQs or big FAQ changes. I do know that Raveners went down in points. Raveners went down 2 points a model. That is one thing that I did note a little earlier from other sources. I also was able to see that there were some changes to Tau. Tau got some slight point decreases across the board, which is helpful to say the least. But looking at the actual FAQs, another thing that I wanted to share. I don't know if Jeremy you were able to see, but a combo of Valerian and Alea, or however you pronounce their name, they now have the Adeptus Custodes keyword.
Yeah, I mean, that aligns with the rest of because they added Sisters of Silence to basically Custodes in the War of Spider. You can they're not added, but they have no penalty now for like detachment
running
rules.
them.
Yeah, for running them.
I think they all count as OBSEC.
Talents of the Emperor.
Yeah.
No, they're Talons of the Emperor. Their sisters are not OBSEC. No, they're not. They don't get the
Sisters
benefit.
of Silence are not?
They're not.
They don't get the benefit.
sure?
I'm pretty sure. It says it does because they don't get in the keyword. I will double check my rules live now. Breaking. While somebody does play me off, Johnny.
Well, while he's doing that, I will say some of the more recent FAQs or codexes that had FAQs didn't get an FAQ in the big one. So I'm looking at Deathwatch, looking at Blood Angels, looking at Deathwatch, Blood Angels. Why can't I think Deathwatch, Blood Angels, Space Wolves? Neither of them got a special FAQ. The Imperial Compendium didn't either, which I thought was a little curious. But of course, the core rulebook did. The GT packet one did, and there were some really fun things here, right? Some of our listeners may already know, but there was some slight difference in change in verbiage of transports and rules for counting as remaining stationary. There was especially in terms of core rules, shooting while embarked on a transport got some changes. Then things like rare rules got some like further extra clarification. Some of the really goofy ones, they're primarily based around transports. That being said, there's I do like the fact that some the magenta ones are Crusade and the blue ones are regular Warhammer 40k as it's supposed to be played, frankly.
Hey,
But-
people like Crusade, okay?
I know people like Crusade, but one of the biggest changes that I saw for the core rule was the clarification of reinforcement units and engagement range. So, talking about the vertical distance, which, if you read through the regular core rules slowly, you're able to definitely get a better understanding as to what the actual answer is, which is, you still are, if you show up 9 inches away, even though the other unit is on a different level, because of the 5-inch coherency, you still have your 8-inch charge from 9 inches away. But they like very explicitly detail it out and give you the correct answer for that in particular. But of course, what we want to take more focus on though is the GT mission pack, since that's what we all play, and of course that goes with the core rules. For you guys, Garrett, while he's still looking that up, what were your summary?
I found it.
You found it.
And I was right. It's specifically they do not prevent Custodes from benefiting from primary detachment abilities, but they themselves do not get any detachment rules. And
Okay.
all of those OPSEC things are detachment rules. Aha! I got
Okay.
Ah!
So for the GT pack, my favorite takeaway is the very first thing listed, the fact that for the people who roll off, it really fucks with everything. I think players who roll off, the winner takes the first turn, which is fucking huge. But Garrett, did you see anything else that really stood out to you?
Other than the changes to secondaries and primaries?
What secondary and primary changes were there?
Well, there was a couple of secondaries that they modified, and then, but I'll let Jeremy was alluding to those earlier, so I'll let him talk about them. In the
What?
primary, I know, right? In the primary, they made it so that in round 5, the person who goes second scores at the end of their turn, not at the end of their command phase. And I like that. I feel like it gives a slight boost to the person going second. Sure. Sorry. It gives the person going second a nice boost in the last round, and it was their attempt to counteract the what data has shown is a bonus to going first, and so it gives them a way to grab the objective at the end and kind of take away victory in the end, rather than always being behind on the curve. As we said, the player that goes first is setting the tempo. And then in the last turn, the second player can be like, well, fine, I'm going to go run over and jump on these objectives. And so I can score my way rather than your way. And I don't know. I like it initially. Of course, I will want to see how it plays before I make any real judgments, though. I feel like it's a subtle yet major change that will need data to figure out how much it'll affect things.
Yeah. And there were even there were some pretty big changes to secondaries too. So I'm really curious to see how your guys' stats show ends up seeing those changes as well when you take a look at that data. I mean, I'm looking at the big one that I noticed was something that Jeremy and I had talked about over the weekend, which was a big change to Bring It Down, and how Bring It Down works against vehicles. Primarily the fact that anything 10 wounds or less is only 2 points now, and things that are 3 are 11 to 19. My apologies. 1 point. 1 point.
Yeah.
And then 10 or more wounds is 2, and then a vehicle model with a wounds characteristic between 11 and 19 is 3 victory points.
So 11 to 19 is 2, and 20
My apologies.
plus 3.
You're
You're
right.
doing great,
You're right.
Alex. You're doing
I'm
great.
doing great. It's just the way that it's structured. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. So 20 or more is 3 points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love this change. I mean, like with my, in one of our stats shows, I straight up said, I don't bring mortifers, because if you bring 4 mortifers, that's 8 free points, because they die really easily at 5 wounds and 4 up save at T5. Like, they basically just give up 8 victory points. If you add in my 2 rhinos on top of that, that's 12 points that you're going to be getting of your 15. I'm like,
great. But I started realizing, like, you know what? I want to use my Mortifers. I love the models. I'm just going to use them regardless of the point change. I was like, screw it. I'm just giving up 12 points. Now I give up 6. Like, that's a huge. No one's going to take Bring It Down against me anymore because 6 points is not worth secondary if you max out by killing 4 Mortifers and 2 Rhinos. So Rhino rushes are gonna, like, Rhinos I think are gonna be a huge thing now because they're 10 wounds with a 3-up save, so they're right on that cusp of being worth 1 point, and they're tough at T7. I don't know. I see Rhinos being pretty good now because they're not going to give up as many points.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. We were even talking, in terms of like Necrons, a big reason why we wouldn't want to take Silent King is because it's a character and he's technically 3 vehicle models, and they were a lot of wounds, but there's 2 5-wound men here, and then there's the 16-wound guy now. So he now gives off way less Bring It Down points because that's literally just 4 points because he's 16 wounds, and then those 2 are 5. The 2 bodyguard men here, so it's like, okay,
Yeah.
that's
Versus
a lot more
before,
reasonable.
in 4, it'd be 10. Was that 10 points? No.
Yeah, it would have been 10 points before.
8
So
points before.
8 points before, but even then, I'm double checking. Yeah,
6
you're right.
points before. It would have been 6 before. 2 for him, or 3. No, 7 for him. 3 for him, and 4 for them. So it would have been 7, and now he's down to 4.
Yeah, he went down 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is still helpful. Still helpful.
Yeah.
That means you can bring multiple vehicles and not worry too much about that. Yeah, Jeremy, what are some of your takeaways from the GT FAQ?
The only thing I care about the GT FAQ is they started rethinking process of operation for end game scoring. That's the only thing I care. They had a lot of clarifying rules like shooting and transports, disembarking in large models, which are all cool. And to be honest, it like almost doubles the GT pack of rules.
Right.
So-
The rare rules are now like even bigger.
Yeah, I was like, which is fine, but like for me the fact, addressing the whole like idea of like, hey, maybe some secondaries on the last turn should be scored not in the next command phase, but have an exclusive contract that says on the last turn you can score this at the end of the turn 5. Because there's some secondaries which are like near impossible to score unless you start scoring it on turn 1, like Linebreaker. The most you can get is turn 3 if you can't move on the opponent's deployment zone. It requires you to get there in turn 2, and then which means you score on turn 3 or 5, so only 12 points. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I picked that one a lot because I tend to score it more consistently with my armies than engage along front. But it is like it is very hard for many, like almost all armies, to be able to maneuver in your opponent's deployment zone on turn 1 and score in the net. Oh, sorry, I'm thinking of Teleport Homer, not a Linebreaker. Linebreaker is scored at the end of your turn, I believe.
Yeah.
Teleport Homer is the one that's like the action that is scored at the end of the turn, which, that's, when it comes to actions, I think actions taken the last turn should still count for points and not until the end of the phase.
Yeah.
Because it makes actions drastically worse than every secondary, that unless there's some massive point advantage, it almost makes them always worse than the ones that could get scored at the end of the turn.
How many points are teleport homers?
There are 4 points if you succeed the action. So, but you can only score 12 max, basically, unless you're able to move in your opponent's deployment zone on turn 1 and take the action, which is then 16 points, right?
Yeah.
But or 15 max. But it is almost impossible to score max points for Teleport Homer. And it's a good one. It's a good trade-off between all the other action options. But it's, like I said, or shadow operations are not action options. But a problem, like I said, like there's a couple of one of these that should be like rewarded to say you can still score it if you on the bottom at the end of the turn on turn 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually shocked. Now that you say that, I'm shocked that wasn't something that was addressed. Because
I think they will now, right? Because
Yeah,
they're
will.
thinking about they're thinking about it right now, right? They're making these changes, thinking like, oh wait, we haven't really thought. We really came up with a really cool new idea of progressive points and like and so forth and so forth, but we hadn't had time to think about like, oh, A lot of these are just like vastly superior than others because they cannot be scored on the last turn.
Yeah.
So I know that will change army designs. Like when you make systematic changes to how points are scored, it will change army mentality, army design mentality as well. Because like I said, like now you really have to think about how you build your army for what secondaries you want to win at every game. So
Yeah, that's a good point. With the GT packet, those were, I think, all the ones that were pretty significant. In terms of the actual codexes and the FAQs there, some of them were really simple. So just to breeze through a few of them myself here, I mean, the demons one was literally just, whether or not the Nurgling squishable rule would interact with mortal wounds, or if mortal wounds counted as being damage 1, the rule can't be used against mortal wounds. So that was an easy one. And then, look, Gene Stealer cults was really just crusade rules about blood brothers, and then a change in the word for perfect ambush rules text. They basically make some clarifications, but nothing really significant whatsoever. We mentioned the Harlequins one got a bit of a change, or Harlequins got some points changes, but they also got like barely anything in the FAQ. It was just the Warlord trait Player of Twilight got the change for limiting the limit of gaining or refunding 1 command point per battle round does not apply to the command points gained via that Warlord trait. So, I mean, that's a change, but it's not like anything that's so significant. And even going, but really the in terms of FAQs, some of them had like almost nothing. Did you guys see anything significant from any codex or campaign book?
I think there was something about Tau on their Montka. That it was something about, people were trying to say that you can use Montka to be able to retreat and shoot, because it says you always count as being stationary, that they count as if they had not moved at all, which stationary is now a version, and you can't retreat as being part of stationary, so technically you didn't make the retreat move is what they're arguing. And I think they basically like didn't answer it. Yeah, like
Really?
yeah, they basically just reiterated it, and it still isn't clear because they just like errated it, and everyone's like, okay, so that is like the selecting units can shoot as if they did not move this turn. I guess that actually makes it a little more clear, because you don't count as doing the stationary, because now being stationary is a type of move now.
Yes.
And they're not doing that. They count as having not moved. Does that mean you retreated? Like, it's still not clear. So there's that. Like, do you count as having retreated? Because you don't count as having moved. You have to have moved to retreated. I don't know how to roll that. Like, it's still weird.
Can you give me the scenario again?
Yeah.
Can you break it down for me?
So basically, the idea is that when you Montka, you can shoot as if you. So it was, I think, you can shoot as if you count as being stationary. And the thing is that being stationary is a type of move, and retreating is a type of move. So if you count as being stationary instead of whatever you did, you don't count as having retreated, is the argument that they're making. But it doesn't explicitly say you don't count as retreating. And so it's like, and they updated it, I think, instead of being stationary as not having moved. And that's still not clear, because they still don't explicitly state you don't count as retreating, but they also don't explicitly state you do count as retreating. So it's like, I still don't know.
To me, I feel like if their intention was to have you still count as retreating, they would explicitly say that. I think that to me, the deductive reasoning goes, if they didn't specify that, then yeah, Monka happens. Your count as
I would argue the
stationary
opposite. If they didn't explicitly say you don't count as retreating, you still retreated. I don't know. Like that.
Why do Tau rules have to be so dumb? Because then people go.
That's basically what I'm trying to argue.
Tau
here
players are pretty fucking sketchy, and it's like sometimes that is truly
the rules.
But we truly know some Tau players who like to Well, they're not sketchy, but fun
Forge
interpretations.
forge their own narrative.
Colorful interpretations, I'll call it. It's a coloring book of rules. It is a coloring book full of rules. But yeah. Anyways, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that change. I'm looking right at it, and yeah, I mean, like I understand your point. Is what I'm trying to say,
Yeah.
Garrett.
That it's still not clear. I could still see it go either way.
Why are you trying to
still
poke
confused.
holes in my fucking worldview here? Yeah, I see it. Well, besides that, the only other change to their FAQ was the signature system for thermo-pneumatic projector. You changed the range to 12. That's all that was that.
I
What?
did remember another FAQ that actually made a big difference. It was something that we talked about earlier, where the rule of returning AP something into AP nothing and then increasing AP is a way to work around those things. They actually had a clarification in the main rules that if you have an ability that sets something to nothing, you check at every single point of the modification chain. So if something goes, so you basically go, what is your AP? Is it -2? Set it to 2. Oh, then I get +1 to AP. Oh, okay, becomes 1. Now change it again to nothing. Like they basically made it so that if you have rules that say set the AP to nothing, you constantly check every step of the modification. So there's no way to get around it now. I have to reread it because it might actually make it so that if you're AP -2, you set it to AP minus nothing, and then you go to AP -1, and then it sets it back to AP minus nothing. So getting +1 AP on AP -2 does not get around the ignore AP -2 at all, which is unintuitive. But they did bring that is an FAQ now. So Valorous Heart and Imagifiers might be worth it again. I don't know. Yeah, so that's the thing. Just playing Tau reminded me because Tau have the so many ways of increasing AP it came up with them a lot. I was like,
Okay.
So that's the thing.
Well, what about our that is a pretty big change. What about our poster boys here? Space Marines. I know that there was one particular FAQ that I personally was happy about, but never had to deal with, and I guess never will have to deal with, and that was the Apothecary bringing back ATVs. Don't have to worry about.
That was so unlikely to
It
happen.
was so obvious that it needed to be addressed, and then it wasn't in the regular FAQ, and I was like, "Are you fucking serious?"
But it also was so unlikely to happen. It was not even yes, let me move my slow ass apothecary upfield to keep up with this ATV.
No,
I mean,
where was Sanguinary Priests? Sanguinary Priests had fucking jump packs.
Yeah,
they can actually keep up with the bikes.
Or if you play Dark Angels and you have bike apothecaries, yeah, sure, you can do all those things. But honestly, come on,
tech bikes, outrider bikes, the whole thing. And I mean, the specifics here is that they just changed the keyword for the rule. Combat Revival is for chapter apothecaries that can affect a chapter infantry, or actually, yeah, it does explicitly say chapter infantry or chapter biker unit, excluding ATV squads.
Oh yeah.
So I guess attack bikes can still get brought.
That's fine. Attack bikes. The 8 wound ATVs was the problem. Attack bikes are only what?
4
wounds?
They're 4.
Yeah.
They're half of 1.
It's not that bad.
With 2 meltaguns, or with a meltagun shot, or with a meltagun and bolters. I mean, I don't know. Still a very useful unit. I mean, honestly, with the big change there, I would only run attack bikes with.
Oh yeah. So Eradicators went from 40 to 45. Outriders went from 45 to 50, and Inceptors went from 40 to 45. There you go. They have it in the errata. What the point changes are for Space Marines.
Oh, okay.
Just Space Marines.
So they had some point increases then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm okay. So that was that. An extra 20 points to the chapter ancient. 15.
I think it
points
went
for the
from
champion.
15 to 20. Yeah, upgrading your chapter ancient and apothecary and all those things used to cost 15, and I think it costs 20 now. They just made them all cost. I think that's what it was.
And then yeah, the assault squads, melta gun and plasma gun are just flat 10 points. Oh, that's from the previous FAQ though. Yeah, the
Oh.
eradicators go up 5, outriders went up 5, inceptor squads went up 5 per model. Okay. And then power ratings, of course, changed. There was a whole document, but specifically Inceptor squads, they went up to 7 power rating. Same with Eradicator squads, starting at 7. So that can start to add up. Okay, pretty reasonable, I would say. Looking at any sort of going with the other 9th edition, going in line with 9th edition codexes, that needed an FAQ in the big FAQ. They of course address the Kineptic Reanimator and the Satan Shard for Necrons, the Satan of the Nightbringer that we talked about earlier. Reanimator went down to 4 power level. Quantum shielding was given to the quantum shielding keyword was given to the Triox Stalker, which I did not realize he did not have the quantum shielding keyword, so he couldn't take advantage of the 4-up invul. So that's fucking fun. I love that was a thing. It reminds me of the 7th edition or the 6th edition Necron Codex. Everything in the unit in the army was leadership 10, except for Emotech, who was leadership 9. And so he had to get an FAQ being like, no, he's leadership 10. That was our bad. And of course, the power rating for the Nightbringer went up too. So not only did the Nightbringer go up in points, he went up in power level. He has 19 power level now, which is big. That's a lot of power level.
A lot of power level.
Yeah. Also, why would you be keeping him in reserve? That's a whole nother thing, but whatever. I guess it's for the fluffy games, right?
Crusade.
It's for Crusade.
I think Crusade uses power level. I don't know. I don't play Crusade.
I like how for Tyranids, there was one FAQ only. It was related to the spore mines and muculid spore mines. That unit cannot perform an action. In addition, it's if it's included in a Crusade force, blah 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 blah. We're talking about Crusade. So yeah. In terms of some of the campaign books, did you guys notice anything that really made a difference? Whether it was War of the Spider or one of the other ones.
Saga of the Beast was listed as having an update, and it had no updates.
Really?
Yeah.
You are correct. It did not. It did not at all.
So I think there was a couple in there that had nothing updated. They just changed the date on the article. Like, okay.
Okay. I saw nothing like that I cared about for changes in terms of points or in terms of facts, changes to books. Like I didn't, nothing caught my eye. I mean, granted, I only read about like a third of the drop release, and I need to spend way more time with the facts. I need to experience them in games. I need to experience the changes. I'm a first-hand kind of person.
I'm curious, Jeremy. So Alex touched on this, but they changed it so rolling to see who goes first. You don't choose anymore. Just winner takes first turn.
That's right.
What are your thoughts on that?
I don't like it, but it's fine. Like it simplifies things. I mean, it wasn't a problem that needed to be addressed. I think it just makes it just simplifies things.
Yeah, the way I initially had that do I like? I actually now like it, because at the end of the day, there's an optimum decision: go first or go second. Like when you win off, you and players generally know which one they should take. Now so it's like you basically have a 50% chance of getting the version you want because you have a 50% chance of winning a roll off. So now we just eliminate reroll, we just eliminate that decision. It's just you have a 50% chance of getting what you want. It's just if you win, you go first. Did you want that or not? Well, you had a 50% chance of going first. You have a 50% chance of going second. It's the same, right. From a probability standpoint, you still have the same % chance of getting what you want, whether it's first or second. But now you just don't get to choose if you win. It's not like the loser would never choose anyways. But it's just I like that it just eliminates another. It's honestly an unnecessary decision. And it's one that I think favors players who know what they're doing to beat players who don't know what they're doing. Because all that means is the player who doesn't know what they're doing, if they win, could make a bad decision. This just eliminates that
problem. So it helps players who are not as knowledgeable maybe of the game and just forces the pace of the game. I'm okay with that, honestly. That's my thoughts on it. Just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I mean, I am not a fan of it either. I will say, I think that, you know, especially coming from Age of Sigmar as well, you know, there's some utility with the roll off being able to be to choose to go first or second. You can play a game where you go, well, I clearly want to go first, and then like halfway through the game, you go, why the fuck did I go first? Oh my god, you know, or vice versa. You know, you can win the roll off and be like, you know what, I want that asshole to move first. You know, you get first turn. You know, you expose yourself first. I feel like there was some utility in that. Now that there isn't, I kind of like, why is there a roll off to begin with? You know, why can't you just have the person who won the roll off for deployment just go first?
Because that'll make changes to how you deploy.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay. Yeah. No worries. Yeah. I'm not a fan of it. I would prefer to still be able to give the choice. Yeah. But looking at some of these other FAQs too, you know, there were some books that I never really took too much credence to because I wasn't super into 40K during the time, specifically those Psychic Awakening books. And there's some pretty big changes on them. One of which it does go to Tau. Shadow Sun and Farsight are Supreme Commanders now. So we now have the Demon Primarchs, Shadow Sun, Silent King, Guilliman, and then we have 2 Tau Supreme Commanders. I think our friend who likes to forge narratives might get upset that the absolutely super duper dead Ethereal Unva is not a Supreme Commander because he's super dead. But you know, despite them disagreeing with that and calling it fake news, these 2 are Supreme Commanders, and if you have Farsight in your army and he's your warlord, you get 3 extra command points. I think that's pretty fucking big.
I agree.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, because the Supreme Command detachment is free, you know, so he just adds 3 points to your army, and that's fantastic. Anyways, you know, there's that, and really that's the only change that was significant outside of Crusade rules. Were you aware, Jeremy, of some of the changes that were made to Adeptus Custodes in the specifically from the War of the Spider FAQ?
Yeah, I saw that it was like I was only made aware after our game of some of the changes. Like I played with one change, which was the way they kind of like the spear sentinels kind of went down in points, not like 4 points, I think, a model effectively. But the big change was like all the banners, which I did not know when we played our game. The banners are don't pay for banners anymore. They don't pay for their banner upgrades. Like it's a pretty fairly significant point change. Like like the -1 hit banner is 30 points, and the +1 attack banner is 20 points. So it's a pretty sizable like percentage point change for those Vexilla, because those are like 85 to 95 point models. So like when you think about the war gear cost on top of that, that's a fairly big price drop for them. So that was really nice.
That wasn't for More of the Spider. That was one of the point changes, though, and I'm glad to hear that.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
Trajan Valoris cannot have host rules.
Yeah, I mean, he never could.
Oh, he never could.
I don't think he could.
If that's,
I think that was just a clarification of some. They just wanted to clarify that, because I think it says like all units except for these following gain like the shield host keyword. And I think Trajan was, if I remember correctly, was one of them in the list.
It's Trajan and Valerian. That's what the FAQ says, at least.
Yeah, it says all Adeptus Custodes units on detachment, excluding Captain General Trajan Valerian, gain the relevant shield host faction keywords. So yeah, it makes sense.
So they just added the Valerian guy.
They just added Valerian to it because he was released as that like one offset. So it's just like, you know, completeness. I love to see Valerian on the table. It's not like he brings much. But you know, Custodes have bigger problems than functionally right now in 9th edition than you know what those rules are effectively.
Hey, another thing. Oh, you know, do you have one more thought about Custodes?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that for me, the big change I would have, and I know people are gonna hate this. My recommendation, if you don't want to rewrite the book grounds up, is give them the ability to take actions at no penalty and give them a permanent transhuman. like inner circle rules for
right.
Deathwing. Yeah.
Seriously.
Raven.
Uh,
All right.
You know,
nice.
we were making fun of Ben earlier, and so I started Ben V, and so I started thinking about the fact that he's starting a Tyranid army, and I was looking through the points and comparing them to Battle Scribe. There were some pretty significant point changes here, and I don't know how this is going to change Tyranids, but I see that Zoe's are up 5 points. I see that there's a 15 points, on wings for most things. Like Hive Tyrants, for example. I see that Tyranid Warriors start at 17 points a model, which is fucking big. I think that's pretty significant because, you might not see just Gaunts or whatever.
How much
I don't
were
know.
Warriors before?
They let me actually take a look at that one more time. I think I might have accidentally looked at the wrong type of unit for Warriors. I will get back to you on that because I no longer have Battle Scribe up, but I do see that there's definitely a change. Yeah, this might be helpful for them. Besides the Ravener change, like we talked about a little earlier, going down to 17 points. I wish I had. I truly just wish that it was color coded so I could get more excited about different changes. I mean, our buddy who's forging his narrative, he also mentioned a suite of tau reductions, but I frankly don't know what those are. I know he mentioned the Riptide, but I don't know of how much.
I mean, do we
Yeah.
care?
Crisis suits went from like 35 to 17 or something like that. Like kids are really confused by that.
I mean, they probably kept the problem is they kept their I don't know, maybe they addressed the cost is more related to, they wanted to balance the weapons over balancing the models themselves. I don't know. There's lots of potential reasons.
Yeah, that Tyranid Warriors were 25 points a model.
Oh wow. Okay.
It went
that's
from
a huge
25
drop.
points down to 17 points. That is a pretty fucking that's a 8-point reduction. That's great.
Yeah,
Wow.
are we gonna see more of them?
I mean, I wouldn't mind it. What are they, like 3 wounds? 3 wounds with a 4-up save, and you can give them a 3-up?
Yeah.
Or...
I mean, I can barely even find a fucking Tyrannid play if I threw a rock in a damn Kraken Hive fleet.
Right.
Well, we
so-
had in Portland, we definitely had Tyranid players. Just
we had as the keyword.
and Ben is starting a Tyranid, or he has a full ass Tyranid army. But my buddy Cam does too. But last I saw, Ben was bringing. He was like, "Whoa, this works for me," and it was like
Spore mines.
as many zoanthropes as you can fit. So yeah,
And as many spore mines you can fit to block off movement.
yes, I don't remember that part, but I just remember seeing him fight against Space Marines and just be like, "Here's a bunch of arcane bolts. Here's a bunch of smites." And I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, this,
I played against him, and it was funny because I rolled the +3 to deny.
every single time."
No, it's my Sacred Right, which is I rolled it at the beginning of the game. So every single unit in my army had a 1d6 +3 deny. And
So
he's
you can
like,
have a 2-up deny.
no, it's 1d6 +3. I only roll 1d6. I don't roll 2d6.
Oh, yeah.
So
Wow.
But like when you get to +3, because every unit in the army can deny, like all my battle sisters, even your rhinos can deny. Literally every single unit. If you have the Shield of Faithful, you get to roll a deny with a d6, but it's just a d6. So if they roll a 5 for smite and you roll a 6 for your deny, happy days. But I rolled the +3 against him as my Sacred Right, so I was at 1d6 +3. So all of a sudden, my
Okay.
6s were 9s, my 5s are 8s, and it was like really scary for him.
Okay, playing an army that literally doesn't understand psychic, that is good to know. That is very good to know. That sounds like fun because that means that then like Super Smite always goes through, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I can't
Okay.
stop Super Smite. Best I can get is a 9 if I get that.
No matter what, there's no like added buffs. Like if Celestine's too close to a unit, it's not like +16 to that roll,
I
right?
think there's a relic that gives a -2 to casting.
Okay. Oh, okay. So you can make your opponents maybe minus to cast, but the best
Yeah.
you can do to deny for
Is a
rando fucking unit. Yeah. Okay. You know, I thought it was funny in the clarifications in the GT packet. They mentioned the Abhor the Witch secondary, and they're like, your opponent actually needs to have psychers for you to use that one. And I think they said something like, you can't have psychers. I don't know. It was
That-
something
oh,
weird.
They've always had it. You can't take a Bore the Witch if you have any psychers. You've never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they had the. Mhm.
Go ahead.
No,
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 go
I'm
on.
just agreeing. Yeah, I'm just
I-
agreeing.
I was saying that they did also with the Bore the Witch. They decreased how many points you get from it. It's no longer 5 from psychic characters and 3 from psychic units. It's 3 from psychic characters and 2 from psychic
Yeah.
units now. Correctly.
Yeah, that one really helps like demon armies a lot in terms of like
And Grey Knights.
secondaries. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a few really decent secondaries that are explicit only to armies with psychers too. You know, there's ones that require you to perform an action, which is a little tricky. But what is like the cheapest psyker? Like that means like a sanctioned psyker could like run away and do like psychic channeling or whatever the fuck that one is. I don't have my
mean,
GT
so
packet yet.
there's one where you have to be within 6 inches of the center of the board, and you have to do a
fuck
psychic
that.
action 3 times to get 15 points or nothing. There's
Oh,
another
actually,
one.
that's not
Ritual
bad.
summon.
Tyranids
Yeah.
could do that one pretty easy.
Yeah, Tyranids can do it. And then there's
And a bunch of sanctioned psychers.
yeah, and then there's one where you do a psychic action which goes off on like a 3 against within 18 inches of another hero. So you basically target a hero 18 inches away, psychic action, gets
Let
3
me
points
peer
per.
into your mind.
Yeah. So like they're okay, the psychic action secondaries. They're not great. They're not bad. But I wouldn't
I-
call them like amazing.
I just gonna point out. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, no, it's just those. Don't try to build an army around like cheapo psychers to get points on secondaries of those. It's not gonna go work in your favor.
Well, I guess
not only,
there's-
not only do you give up assassinate, but you also give up like abort the way.
Well, some armies
Uh,
will naturally have the ability to do those pretty well, like Harlequins, you know. 'Cause-
No. Harlequins only have one psyker.
Yeah, but if you have one psyker and he's easily protected throughout the game, or even if you bring two of them.
Am I going to bank on my one model to do this 3 times in the center of the table and not get denied? Or
It
yeah,
depends
I
on the
don't know.
mission.
I mean, it depends on the opponent and the mission, but it's very unlikely that of all the 3 possible points I'm gonna secondaries I can take, I'm gonna take the one that's most ill-equipped.
So
But-
yes, Alex, it is situational to work, but don't build an army.
Also, like the
Fine.
big thing is,
Fine.
isn't it since it's still an action? Don't you lose like all your auras as well and everything?
You don't lose your auras
It's
in an
completed
action.
at the end of the psychic phase.
Oh, it's complete. Okay, so
Yeah.
you lose it for that phase, but that's it. Okay. I was like, wait a second, like that doesn't sound good at all. The one major secondary change, I will say, like, and we talked about it on the stream on Sunday that I really did not like was the while we stand, we fight change. Because they changed it from models to units. So like for like armies like Custodes, where that one it was like a somewhat like good one to take because you could characters a little bit easier to hide. And you know, it was pretty easy to say, okay, that one I can maybe get max out points on. Now that it's like the most expensive units instead of models, it makes it so like most of the units Custodes take are more expensive than their characters. So you're basically stuck picking like units all of a sudden. You're like, okay, this is not as almost like not worth taking.
And like big plague, what are they called? The Nurgle Marines.
Plague crawler. Oh, the
No.
plague crawlers, the Nurgle
No,
Marines,
the
plague
Nurgle
Marines.
Marines. Plague
Plague
Marines.
Marines.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, that was a brain.
I was like, what are we
Oh
talking
God.
about?
Oh God, that was a brain fart. Like take a big unit of Plague Marines that are worth a ton of points that are never going to die. You just need one guy with 1 wound left to score the 5 points. Like that's annoying. Like some people got a boost, and then people like Custodes got a minus. It's like
Yeah, it's it. I still don't. I don't know, man. I'm not thrilled about that one at all. I don't like the change to it. Even in like that example you gave me, like I don't know. I don't see Plague Marines of even the new book surviving a lot of like some of the more like combat prowess army. Like I said, like you play that Plague Marine unit faces 1/10 and it's like, fuck, I hate my life. Especially Nightbringer. If it faces against Nightbringer, then it's just like, holy shit, fuck that guy.
I
Because
mean, the nice thing is that this shows that they're willing to take a look at secondaries that were not taken much. Because I think While We Stand, We Fight was one of those, like, as we noticed, didn't really get taken. It was just a very non-secondary, and so it shows that they're willing to make changes to secondary.
Yeah,
so we'll see what happens.
It's not that I disagree of the change. It's just like there's some armies where like there's no list changes you can make to like try to get that one back in your list, basically. Like and until we get like for like more elite armies, until we get like book secondaries for them, a lot of the book ones are pretty rough for elite armies to do, because a lot of the action ones are like almost like guaranteed, like not like right. Like there's a real cost to taking action for like armies like Custodes, like a real legitimate cost.
Yeah, I was playing Ben Schmoller on TTS, and he took deploy scramblers, and I think he deployed scramblers once in his deployment zone turn 1, and then he couldn't because he needed to use every single unit every turn to do anything.
That's the problem.
Well, you mentioned well, real quick, do we have any kind of final thoughts on the big FAQ just as a whole?
I like the direction it's going in. Willing to change secondary missions, willing to actually change the flow of the game based off primary scoring, and then just adding new rare rules, which is this is how you do it, and then the next GT book append them.
I look forward to next version of this fact where two things happen, where we go back to 6x4 tables because Games Workshop needs to make more money. No, that was a joke. The one I'm really looking forward to next year is when the new point system comes out, and it's just basically points per war scrolls. I mean data sheets. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna give you a real serious one here. No, I mean this is echoing Garrett's sentiment. It's a good direction for the game. I'm really looking forward to more changes and more update to the secondaries, and I hope the next GT book we get this year, if we get one this year, will have more secondary options. And I'm talking more like along the lines of like new secondary classes instead of just straight up more on the classes. So that way we get a wider range of and combinations effectively. That's what I'm looking for.
We're still pigeonholed into specific secondaries merely because there's only 5 sections and you have to pick 3 of them. One of them is not available to most armies.
Like one of the things they could do to like kind of like incentivize certain unit to make more of a presence in the game, like let's say aircrafts, right? What if you had like secondaries that basically give you points for aircraft placement or achieving something of an aircraft? These are very specific battlefield role type secondaries, but now it incentivizes different types of thinking about list building, because you're like, oh, I never wanted to take this aircraft or whatever because it doesn't really function all that well in certain terms of secondaries and so forth and so forth. But like having that extra edge where it's like, well, that could be something on the table. That's like, it's not saying that aircrafts are bad in this edition. It's just that there's a real cost to taking them for secondary purposes. So, like I said, like I think if they should look into thinking maybe giving some secondaries paid on battlefield roles over just right now, just psychers. Like right now, psychers are the only one that basically an infantry keyword, because some actions can only be taken by infantry keyword. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that type of change to the next set of secondaries.
What about you, Alex?
I mean, you guys have already said everything that I needed to hear.
Great, show's over, boys.
No. Hold on. You mentioned while I was using the restroom, ironically, you were mentioning Plague Marines, that little brain fart that you had, Garrett, and we're gonna get Death Guard very, very soon. Were you guys able to look at the article that they posted today, which would be Tuesday? It gave us some updates on, a little bit of a preview, a little bit of a slap and tickle in terms of
Slap
uh,
and tickle.
the Death Guard book. Did you guys see that?
No, I haven't read anything about Death Guard. Like I said, I want to experience it.
Well, I think it's really funny that they go through 2 warlord traits, and then they explain to you that Mortarion has 3 warlord traits. But they
Oh
start
yeah,
off,
I did read that article.
but
I don't think
but
that
they
was
give you an
yesterday, was it?
explanation of 2 of them, and then they name the other 3 that he has, but they're not going to tell you what they are yet.
Yeah, I mean, whatever.
Yeah,
That requires him to be the warlord, and I mean, I think you have to if you have him in your army, and because he's gonna be like one of those supreme commander rules things.
yep.
And honestly, like I'm just looking forward to the contagion, like the new like kind of like contagion mechanic they have more than anything to see if it's any because it looks good at face value, but we'll see what ends up happening. I'm just like, I don't know, like I said, like joking aside, but like following Plague Marines after the Necron book, which introduced Entropic Strike from the Nightbringers, feels like a real kind of like punch at the balls. You're like, yeah, I'm so excited, and Mortarion's gonna be this amazing, badass, like durable monster, and then like Nightbringer on the table, and he's just like, fuck.
I think you're comparing apple. I mean, like we're always comparing apples and oranges in this war game, but like I think that the direction of Nurgle is going in a different way. Nurgle Nurgle is going to go from super resilient to kind of resilient plus super debuff to your army, because we already know that they're going to ignore Tanglefoot grenades, right, from Custodes.
Mhm.
But like even then, like there's the warlord trait, the droning that they previewed for, which is a contagion. While enemy units are within contagion range of this unit, from that unit or units, I'm assuming it's an army. At the start of your opponent's movement phase, half the enemy's unit's move characteristic until the end of the phase. So if you're within this contagion range, I'm not quite sure if that's 1 inch, 3 inch, 6 inches. If you're within range of these units with the contagion, then you only a 3 inch move instead of 6, or a 6 inch move instead of 12. And the fact that they can make enemy units -1 toughness, like I see these stacking debuffs here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, and that's cool. That's perfectly fine. I'm just saying, like, it's kind of funny to like kind of like introduce the hammer to the nail like immediately, right? Like back to back in a sense.
That's fair.
I mean, it could be that like there some rule of like the Demon Primarchs gets introduced that makes him like, I don't give a shit about this. It's Nightbringer. But I would be shocked if that was the thing and he wasn't like 500 plus points.
Yeah. I think that's also from our perspective of being in this game back when like Demon Primarchs were some like crazy cool, super rare, ultra powerful thing, and now that we know that they like just like get killed and come back like willy nilly whenever, I wouldn't expect that. I do like though the Death Shroud Terminators got a change to their scythes. Their scythes are basically war scythes with 1 less AP. They're +3, I'm guessing from strength 4, +3 strength, -3 Ren or AP, and a flat 2 damage. So they're just AP -3 instead of AP -4 war scythes, but they're Man Reapers. But even better, they have an anti-horde mechanic. You can either cleave at strength 7 -3 2 damage, or you can and it's -1 to hit, or it's regular weapon skill, which for Death Shroud is going to be a 2-up. And they're strength 5, essentially -1 damage, but you make 2 attacks instead of 1. That Terminators are 3 attacks now, so that's like 6 attacks each at -1.
I think it's actually 4 attacks each. I forgot how many attacks. They have a lot, but for me, it's the Plague Flail. Like any melee mechanic that lets you like spillover damage is much more interesting.
We don't know if that's changing or not.
I would imagine not, but it's just this is kind of the way they've always been, right?
I think the new Dark Angel flails still spill over, so
yeah.
Plague Flail.
Or the old fail updated still spill over. Basically.
Yeah, exactly. Like they still have flails that were now recently updated that still spill over. So I'd imagine the flail rule is still damage spillover. That would make sense to me.
Yeah. And then the final thing that really was significant to me, at least with the Death Guard preview, little tickle, was the bloat drone close combat change. Might as well call them blend drones. And that's like 12 attacks. It's strength +1, AP 2 damage. That does look sexy at 12 attacks with that weapon, until we remember that it's a demon engine, so it's probably gonna have weapon skill 4.
No, it has weapon skill 3. It says it
does?
It says literally in the description. With a horde spooking maximum of 12
Yes.
each and a new weapon skill of 3+, blood drones will now have to think long and hard on whether they want to spread the gift and their goal up close or from afar.
So I'm gonna guess they're strength 5, which means that these are strength 6 in combat, or strength 6 to strength 7. 9 hit against infantry, Space Marines. What? 6.
I mean,
6
Hey,
wound.
Mortifer with 15 attacks. Sorry.
it's all those changes are cool, but like also point changes, right? There might be some point changes that like might not make it as interesting. So not to crash the party, but like like I'm interested to see how how much more durable Plague Marines got on the table with some of the like mechanics they haven't unveiled yet. And
Not
that,
much.
That sells it. That would sell it to me. Well, there's like a bunch of warlord traits we still haven't seen so far. Isn't there like one new character they haven't like revealed yet? Or I forgot if they revealed his data sheet yet.
They revealed him, but they didn't reveal any of his rules or anything like that.
I guess my point is like I'm hoping Plague Marines goes back into more of a like an action, or sorry, not Plague Marines, but whatever their legion is called. Oh my god, what is it? Death Guard. I hope Death Guard goes back into like more like the relentless, slow-moving infantry-based army than just kind of like what it's been. Where it's like demon engine, demon engine, demon engine, demon engine, and then poxwalkers. That's like so. And also, poxwalkers been native. Were they always toughness 4, or did they just like made them toughness 4?
They just made them toughness 4.
It just made him T4.
Oh man, do you imagine back in the day when there was like that Forge World character that could make it them like toughness 5 too, and you're like, or toughness an additional +1? That must have been the most obnoxious unit. I'm glad that's gone. No, I'm pretty sure that's gone now.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be gone. But yeah, I mean, like they come out for pre-order Saturday.
And think about like some of the stratagems too they used to have, like a lot of the things that were like that made Plague Marines terrifying when they first dropped was like the fact that you were forced to shoot the closest Plague Marine block. Like they had a stratagem that was you can only shoot the closest
Spell.
or it was a spell. Either way, like having the ability to just like, and then you could stack a bunch of mechanics to make him like minuses to hit, and so which won't matter too much because -1 is the limit now. But like if there's any kind of like reroll disgusting resilient rolls, like even like reroll 1s of disgusting resilience would be like, as I've played against Necrons, know that can really like get you some mileage, especially when 2-wound models and toughness 5. So I don't know. We'll see what the book says in terms of durability.
Sure, it's going to be annoying having a bunch of weapons that are strength 7 suddenly wound Space Marines on 2-up, because you're making the Space Marines then go from T4 to T3, and then they use transhuman physiology on you. You're not wounding on a 2-up, sir. You are wounding on a 4-up. Great.
Yeah, but those
Perfect.
those modifiers don't really I think they only work if you're really close. The contagion mechanic is like in the mid game or in depending on the distance or whatever.
That's what I'm trying to say. That's why I'm not counting shooting. I'm assuming you have to be like dirty close. You got to be.
Well, they have the Hearthstone mechanic from AOS. That's what they gave him.
Wait, what? Really?
The herdstone. The herdstone grows every turn.
Yeah, they have the Hearthstone mechanic. So they're.
Whoa.
So
that's a weird dynamic for 40K.
I think it's
Or
great,
40K,
especially on smaller tables like we are, and not 6x4 tables. That's pretty good. I'm just like I said, I want to see the full book before I make like a full assessment. But really, for me, the key changes I want from that book are Plague Marines being tougher, more relevant, and then more Terran not getting punked like by Nightbringer automatically. Just well.
So for our listeners who don't play AOS, the Hearthstone, you basically it's a terrain piece for Beasts of Chaos, a bad faction in Age of Sigmar. There's just no way to.
Whoa! There's a lot of fandom out there.
Oh, there's a lot of fandom, and like Jagged Horn Tribe destroyed one of my fucking settlements today, so we don't have to talk about that in Total War.
Well, we
that's the old
don't. We
world.
don't want to. So let's.
We
move
don't
on.
want to, but we're going to.
No, we're
Anyways.
not.
I'm not editing it out. Anyways,
Okay.
the Herdstone is basically a terrain piece that as the game goes on, it has an aura and then it starts to widen. One of the auras is like ignore leadership tests for your units, but then there's also negative aura effects for your opponents. So I doubt that I would be really shocked if Contagion just was a radius from the terrain piece, though. I feel like
I
that
think
would be
every unit gives it off, does
every unit gives it off from the leader. I think it's at least from what I had heard. We're gonna have to find out when we get the book.
The book comes out like what, this week, right? Or next week?
let
It's
me
this
double
week or
check
next
that.
week?
Pre-order this week.
Pre-order this week.
Yeah.
This week. Yeah.
Pre-order
So
this
next
week.
week. Well, we'll get all of the rules out on Saturday. Is basically what it comes down to.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. We're gonna have to see that. In the meantime, are we getting a game in this week for the live stream?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Awesome.
That's
Okay,
the
well,
plan.
that we'll get that done, and then do we have a stat show anytime soon, you guys?
No, I'm waiting until the end of the month before we resume.
Yeah, I figured we just get through January, get some stats going, and then start maybe like a Valentine's Day.
Well, there's a couple of things I want to see happen first. So we're gonna, there's a couple more codex releases. Then we have more secondaries being introduced to the game, and I want to see how the game changes with the adjustments they made to primary scoring and so forth, right? Because I think now primary is going to have even more of an impact than ever. So
good. Yeah. And then I think that we're gonna have a John hobby sesh. I really don't know. He's not here to defend himself or promo it, but we do of course usually do have the hobby episodes, the hobby hangouts, live streams from John every Wednesday. We have the live stream games every Sunday, Jeremy, myself, or some variation of that. And then we got that stat show every other week typically, but we need a little bit more games to come in through, like you said, a little bit more data to come through. And if you guys like this episode, like and subscribe. We are on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We are generally for our Age of Sigmar episodes on the Frontline Gaming roll, but this is of course going to be Alex, Garrett, and Jeremy signing off for the evening. Have a good night.
have a good night, folks.